So after you write out the name, what do you want to do? You want to write out all their scores, okay? So you need a loop for that. But we don't know how many scores there are, so let's declare a variable called scores. And that's going to be student sub I dot score dot length. And that'll tell me how many scores there are. And now that I know how many scores there are, I can write them all out. So for so I want to go to this student, student I, and I want to go to their score array, and I want to print out score number J. Okay, read names and scores. You guys don't need to do this. Okay, I just wanted to bring that up so we can see what our data looks like. So that's our data. And now it's telling me I have an error. Where's my error? Invalid expression, item J. I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm going to go with that being another bogus error message. Go ahead and run it. Okay. Is that what you guys are getting? Hang on a second here. So we're getting the 4 and the 5, and then John's scores are 199, 98, 97, 95. Paul's are, so these numbers over here match with these over here. There. Is that what you're getting? Casey?
Yep.
Brooke?
Mine's saying, hang on. Wait again. It doesn't like my int scores equals student sub I score dot length. It's saying object reference not set to an instance of an object. Student dot name was null.
Are you still calling read data before you call display students?
Oh, that's before.
Has to be before. You can't print them if you haven't read them.
Okay, yeah.
So what that error message was telling you was that you had not allocated memory for your student array.
Okay, now I'm getting it.
Now you're getting it?
Yeah.
Everybody else okay?
Yep.
Okay. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how much sense does that code make for you? Just raise your hand. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay. I'd like for that to be a 10 for you. So I would encourage you to spend a little bit of time trying to work your way through it, and just, sometimes you got to draw pictures of what's going on to figure it out. Now let's clean it up a little bit. Let's do all the stuff for one student on one line. So let's got to stop the program. And after we stop the program, let's make this a right when we write out the name so it'll stay on the line. And I'm going to pad this on the right. And I know the names are relatively short. I'll just put the number 8 in there, so it'll put 8 spaces on the end of that. And then when I do these, I want to do the same thing. And now the scores have to be converted into strings first. So I've got to do a 2-string, because output's always a string, and then dot. And we want to pad numbers on the left so that they line up underneath one another. And 5 characters should be plenty, since the biggest number is 100. Now, what's going to happen if I run the program like that? Well, let's run it like that and see. So now they're all in one line because we didn't have a single right line in there any place. So where's the right line have to go? At the end of every student, right? This is the code. This is where you start doing the student. This is where you end doing the student. So down here, after you get out of that for loop, so you go through this for loop, you print out all 5 scores, and they're all on the same line. Then you get done with the 5th score, then you go down to a new line. Go ahead and write it now. Our output should look pretty nice this time. There. Looks pretty good. If I wanted those names to be a little bit closer to the scores, I could just pad them on the left. And if I run it now, the names will be right aligned instead of left aligned in an 8-column field. Actually, I think that's easier to read because the names are closer to the numbers, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so we know how to get stuff in. We know how to get stuff in from a file. We know how to write it back out again. Now let's go back up to all that code that I commented out the other day. So let's take these next 3 lines here and uncomment them and see what we're trying to do. So I'm going to ask them which student they want to see. And we'll assume that they know to type a number from 0 to 3, so we don't have to worry about it being out of bounds or anything. And then what I want to do is I want to display the scores for one student. And they're telling me which student number, and I'm going to pass in, I'm not passing in the whole array here. I'm passing in one element of the array. So if we go back to that picture that I had up here a minute ago, I'm either passing in like one of these, or one of these, or one of these, or one of these. Okay? So what is the type of each one of these elements in the array here? Feel free to blurt out the answer.
What is the question?
What is the type of each one of those elements in the array?
In the student array?
Yeah,
Student struct?
student struct. This is student struct, this is student struct, this is student struct, this is student struct. What's the type of name? That's an easy one.
String.
It's a string. What's the type of score?
Int.
Well, it's not just one int though. It's an array of int. Okay? So let's go back over here. So if the type of one item in the array is going to be student struct, then that's the way we have to write up our, so let's take this code right here and copy it. And then let's go down just below main.
Tom, can you go back up? I don't have any of that code that was commented out.
Yeah, neither do I.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't put in all that stuff last time.
Okay. Sorry about that. That was in our notes last time, and maybe I just had you copy part of the notes over. Got the code copied?
I got it.
Cody?
Yep.
So down here, we have to write a function that will display one student, okay? So I'm passing in one student, which is going to be of type student struct. And just to be different, I'm just going to call it S this time. It's not a very good variable name, but just to point out that it doesn't have to be called student. It's a placeholder. So they've passed in one of the, one of these, it looks like this, and it's called S. So if I want to display what's in S, I can write out s.name, and then I can write all the elements in the score array for S. So this is actually pretty straightforward. So we're going to do console . And we'll do a pad left on that. And that'll write the name for me. And then what I want to do is I want to write all the scores for that student. So for Does that code look familiar? It's kind of like this. Except our variable is S up here instead of student sub I. Bring that code in. Go ahead and run it. When it asks you for a student name, you know, pick out a name. Whoops. So when it asks you for a number, pick out a number from 0 through 3. And it should come back and display this stuff for you, except it'll be lined up nicer than it is in the input file. Okay, so I'm going to answer the question over here. And I'm going to get Ringo. Working? Cody, or Casey, you look like you're done, but Cody and Brooke, I'm not sure about.
Trying to see now.
What's that?
Looking at it now.
You need to see my code again.
Mine's working.
Brooke, is yours working?
Can I see your code again?
It's right here.
Okay. Wait. Yeah, I got all that right. And probably up in the declaration area. Yeah.
You getting an error message?
When I punch in a name, it's here, let me do it again.
Are you putting in a number for a name for a student?
Am I putting in a number? No.
Yeah.
No, I'm just putting in a name.
No, we're not looking for a name. We need to know a number from 0 to 3.
Oh.
We're not that quite advanced yet.
Okay.
So
Probably something.
up here, you know, we ask for them which student we want, and then they type in a number.
Mhm.
And then we use that number to pull out one student struct out of the array and pass that to our function that will display that one student.
Yeah, I must have messed up somewhere earlier because it's not giving me an error anymore after I put in a number, but it's giving me the name. So I put in 2, and so it says George, but then after it says system.int32 system.
Did you put toString in here?
Yeah. S.score. Oh, score sub I. Let's see if that fixes it. Okay, that worked. I forget the sub I part after console.write s.score.
Okay.
I didn't have sub I in there.
So this will display one student for me. And then I want to write some code that'll display all the scores for one test. Okay. And apparently you don't have that code, so I'll give you a minute to, and we'll try to shorten this a little bit so you don't have to type as much stuff. We'll just call it display test. And up here, we'll just say test. And they will know enough that they're supposed to type in a number from 0 to 4. So you good? So what are we going to pass in? We have to pass in the whole array, because if I want to print out the result of test number 0, I got to get to this guy's test 0, and then this guy's test 0, and then this guy's test 0, and then this guy's test 0, right? So I got to pass in the whole thing, and then I got to go through and pick out the same score for everyone. So we're going to pass in the student. I'm going to pass in that array. And I'll call it S again. And they're going to pass in an integer. I'm just going to call that T, and that'll be the number, the test number. So let's think about what we want to do here. We want to go to student 0. Let's say I typed in a 2. We want to go to student 0 and write out test number 2. Then want to go to student 1, write out test number 2. Go to student 2, write out test number 2. Go to student 3, write out test number 2. Okay? So I need to have a for loop, and I'll declare an integer variable here. Students equals s.length. So that'll be 4. And then 4 and I want to write out the test for this student. Which test? Test number T. So console.write, and it is student S, student S sub I, and then I want to go to their test array, which is called score, and I want to get test number T. Okay, and again, this needs to be a string, and I want to pad it, so I'm going to do pad left 5 again. And when I fall out of the loop, I'm just going to go to a new line. That's not really necessary in this case because this is the end of the program, but ready to go? Let's run it. If you're still working on the code here, there's the code. I type in which student. I type in which test. I'm going to do test number 2. That should be that middle column there, 90, 80, 88, 90. There it is. Working?
Yep. So I got.
Yep.
I think what I'll do with the remaining, we got 4 more things that I kind of want to do here. And I think what I'll do is I will make a video of those. I want to start on something new next week. So I think I'll just make a video of those, but please watch the video and try to figure out the code. As a matter of fact, I would just try try writing the code yourself as you're going through the video before I actually write the code. Try to write the code yourself and see if you're getting it correctly. I mean, once you understand, this little hierarchy right here, the whole thing is called student. One element is student sub I, and its type is student struct. And then this is student sub I.name. This is student sub I.score, refers to all of them. Student sub I.score sub j refers to one of them. And once you get that hierarchy down, which is perfectly logical, it makes sense, then this stuff isn't all that hard to write. But you need to do it a little bit. Also, we usually have 3 tests in this class. We've got 3 weeks left. Usually, well, we've missed at least a week in here. So usually it would be about 4 weeks before the end of the semester or so. So we could either do 2 more tests or we could just do a final. If we do a test, it's basically a take-home test. I give you a day to work on it. So why don't you think about it and send me an email telling me whether you'd rather have 2 more tests or 1. If we have, well, that last test, regardless of whether it's 1 more or 2 more, that last one would be during what would have been finals week. Okay. And I'll just have to find out from you guys what else you have going on in terms of other finals that week. I really don't know what faculty are doing about finals. And we will try to find a day when you're relatively free. Okay. So before the end of the day today, just tell me if you'd rather have 1 more test or 2. I mean, the advantage of 2 tests are, that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. The advantage of 1 test is it's 1 less test to take. So depends on your point of view. So just let me know and I'll let you guys decide that. We've got an odd number of students, so we don't have to worry about a tie. So send me that email. So we'll call it a day then for now. Here's a thought. See if you can get life working by Saturday. Pretend it's due Saturday instead of Tuesday. And if you got questions, let me know. If you wait too long, I think some of you waited too long on the last one and got close, but not quite all the way there. So allow some extra time this time. Okay. Casey, I graded part 2 of your project. You got 99.99%.
All right, I'll take it.
I rounded up. So you got 100. I was tempted on your activities table or ministries table or whatever you wanted to call it. All you had was a key. And I thought that, if they're interested in choir, you'd have a 4-character key for choir. But I thought you should also have the whole thing written out for a second field. So, although you could argue that it'd be easy to figure out from the code what it was, but just as a matter of clarity, I thought you should probably have the whole thing written out. So that's it's pretty minor though. Everything else looked really good. So good job. Okay. Happy Easter, you guys.
Thank you.
See you Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you like my IBM computer?